Hello, dear students. Today we are going to discuss Swami Vivekananda. Before going through this lecture, first let us have a look on its objectives. Firstly, understanding the general philosophy of Swami Vivekananda, and the next one, understanding the educational philosophy of Swami Vivekananda. Vivekananda, who is rightly regarded as one of the most prominent architects of modern India. Vivekananda, whose real name was Narendra Nath Datta, was born in Kolkata. His inquisitiveness and sense of inquiry was evident from his formative years. So was his compassion for others. After inheriting religious temperament and far-sighted intelligence from his father, he took interest in history, literature, and philosophy in his early age. Herbert Spencer and J.S. Mill happened to be his favorite philosophers, and Wordsworth as his favorite poet. It was in the company of Sri Ramakrishna Paramhansa that he got initiated into the saintly order and got the title of Swami Vivekananda. He spread the message of his guru, that was actually the principle and practice of Vedanta, in Asia, Europe, and America. Swami Vivekananda explained the philosophy of Vedanta to the American and European public. He was the most prominent among the spiritual ambassadors ever sent by India to foreign countries. Vivekananda had full sympathy for the poor and downtrodden, and he wanted to teach Vedanta to everyone without any distinction of caste, color, creed, or sex. To him, no religion was inferior to any other. So he wanted everyone to remain in his own religion. Vivekananda had a firm faith in the unity of Godhood and the deeper unity of all religions. The real substance of all religions lies in their principles, and it is there that unity of all religions can be seen. Vivekananda defines religion not as a creed or dogma, but as a manifestation of the divinity that is already in man. And so we respect the human being as a spark of divinity. Outwardly, one may be a Hindu, Christian, and Muslim, male, female, black or white. These are all external. There is nothing narrow or sectarian in what Vivekananda preached. As a philosopher, he proved that the ancient philosophy of Vedanta could successfully meet the challenges of today and solve the modern problems very effectively. He was actually the person who synthesized the idealistic philosophy of the West and creative Vedanta philosophy of Hindu religion. He preached universal brotherhood and interpreted humanism in his idealistic manner. Vivekananda was not only a great supporter of Vedanta, but also he had given Vedanta a practical form. Ex-Prime Minister of India, Jawaharlal Nehru, remarked, "Rooted in the past and full of pride in India's prestige, Vivekananda was yet modern in his approach of life's problems and was a kind of bridge between the past of India and her present. His mission was the service of mankind through social service, mass education, religious revival, and social awakening through education. His life was a confluence of the Oriental and the Occidental, the past and the future, the traditional and modernity, religion and science, and spirituality and education. He was the architect of the spiritual bridge that connected the East and the West, a bridge built on the central truths of the Vedanta philosophy. Spiritualism, according to him, refers to the steady manifestation of the divine within, out of which goodness, purity, love and service alone can manifest. He has placed before us constructive ideas and philosophy for the regeneration of India and world through a perfect system of education. His dynamic ideas and philosophy of education was based on the nectar of Vedantic vision of the innate divinity of human beings, which would lead to human growth, development and fulfillment. He tried to make every Indian feel proud and declared, "The background, the reality of everyone is that same eternal, ever blessed, ever pure and ever perfect one. It is the soul in the saint and the sinner, in the happy and the miserable, in the beautiful and the ugly, in men and in animals. It is the same throughout. It is the shining one." Besides numerous poems and other forms of writings, he left 4 classics: Janana Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Karma Yoga and Raja Yoga, all outstanding treatises on Hindu philosophy. Students, let us have a look on the educational philosophy of Swami Vivekananda. He presented a philosophy of education for man-making. Amongst the contemporary Indian philosophers of education, he is one of those who revolted the imposition of British system of education in India. He was severely critical of the pattern of education introduced by the British in India. He felt that the current system of education did not conform to India's culture and heritage. He pointed out that such an education only brings about as external change without any profound inner force. Since he was a humanist, he pleaded for education for man-making. In contrast to the contemporary system of education, Vivekananda advocated education for self-development. He said, "By education, we do not mean the present system, but something in the line of positive teaching. Mere book learning won't do. We want that education by which character is formed, strength of mind is increased, the intellect is expanded, and by which one can stand on one's own feet. What we want are Western science coupled with Vedanta, Brahmacharya as the guiding motto, and also Shraddha and faith in one's own self." These words by Vivekananda represent the characteristic Indian definition of education. Education, according to most of the Western educationists, aim at man's adjustment with the environment. According to the Indian philosophical tradition, on the other hand, is the realization of the knowledge inherent in man. True knowledge does not come from outside. It is discovered with the individual in the self, which is the source of all knowledge. To quote Vivekananda again, "All knowledge that the world has ever received comes from the mind. The infinite library of the universe is in your mind. The external world is only the suggestion, the occasion which sets you to steady your mind." The falling of the apple gave suggestion to Newton, and he steadied his own mind. He rearranged all the precious links of thought in his mind and discovered a new link among them, which we call the law of gravitation. Thus, according to Vivekananda, the function of education is the uncovering of the knowledge hidden in our own mind. Education is the process of self-development. He again says, you cannot teach a child any more than you can grow a plant. The plant develops its own nature. A person's education is not judged by the number of books he has read, but by the thickness of the cover of ignorance on his mind. The thicker is the cover, the greater is the ignorance. As the light of the knowledge dawns, this cover of ignorance gradually shatters. The teacher's job is to uncover knowledge by his guidance. His guidance makes the mind active, and the educand himself unveils the knowledge lying within him. According to Swami Vivekananda, education is a liberating force. It liberates a person from negative tendencies and ignorance about one's real life. In Indian tradition, Vidya, that is knowledge, is posited as antithetical to avidya, that is ignorance. And it ought to culminate in Atma Vidya, that is knowledge of the self, to be complete. The pursuit of both worldly and spiritual knowledge for holistic living and for gaining immortality is emphasized. Learning is not an end in itself, but only a means to help a person grow into self-consciousness, to make him realize the ultimate ones of life, a fact so logically explained by Vivekananda. The ideas given by him were pregnant with deep philosophical value. It relates to the development of the total man, and not just the outer man of flesh and blood, but the inner man of flesh and spirit, extending towards the infinite world beyond space and time. The nucleus of Swami Vivekananda's ideas does not lie in religion and theoretical doctrine and dogmas, but in the real nature of man he described as inherently divine. Vivekananda seems to agree with Froebel when he states that education should be conducive to the harmonious unfoldment of a person's life, and that the evolution of nature reveals itself in the evolution of the human mind. Again, like Froebel, he stressed the integrated development of human beings who can lead a life of harmony and peace. Swami Vivekananda says, we want to become harmonious beings who can lead a life of harmony and peace. We want to become harmonious beings with the psychical, spiritual, intellectual, and working sides of our nature equally developed. His philosophy of education has been supported by that of Tagore, when he also opined that the highest education is that which does not merely give us information but makes our life in harmony with all existence. Students, let us discuss the aims of education. The aim of reaching perfection. The main aim of education is to achieve extensive perfection already in man. Vivekananda opined that all material and spiritual knowledge is already present in man, covered by the curtain of ignorance. Education should tear off this veil and bring the individual to the level of self-actualization. Nextly, he supported the fulfillment of Swadharma as one of the aims of education. He accepted the idea of Swadharma in education. Everyone has to grow like himself. No one has to copy others. True improvement is self-inspired. There should not be any type of external pressure on the children. External pressure only creates destructive reactions, leading to obstinacy and indiscipline. In an atmosphere of freedom, love, and sympathy alone, the child will develop courage and self-reliance. The child should be encouraged to stand on his own, to be himself. Hence, Vivekananda suggests us, if you do not allow one to become a lion, he will become a fox. So it is obvious that education should be modified to meet the individual needs of each child. Everyone should be given equal opportunities to develop according to his or her own inner nature. Freedom of growth. According to Swami Vivekananda, freedom is the first requirement for self-development. The child should be given freedom to grow according to his or her own nature. Vivekananda said, you cannot teach a child any more than you can grow a plant. All you can do is on the negative side. You can only help. You can take away the obstacles, but knowledge comes out of its own nature. Loosen the soul a little so that it may come out easily. Put a hedge around it. See that it is not killed by anything else, and there your work stops. You cannot do anything else. The rest is a manifestation from within its own nature. The teacher should not exert any type of the external pressure on the child. The child should be helped in solving their problems himself. The teachers should have an attitude of service and worship. Education ultimately aims at realization. It is a means to the establishment of a fraternity of mankind. Character formation is one of the most essential aims of education. According to Vivekananda, the character of any man is but the aggregate of his tendencies, the sum total of the bent of his mind. As pleasure and pain pass before his or her soul, they leave upon it different pictures, and the results of these combined impressions is what is called a man's character. The educators should present high ideals before learners. The best way to develop the character is the personal example of high character set by the teacher. For character development, Vivekananda emphasized on the practice of brahmacharya, which fostered development of mental, moral and spiritual powers, leading to purity of thoughts, words and deeds. According to him, the students should be trained to work hard, formulate good habits and learn from mistakes. This character formation requires traits such as thirst for knowledge, perseverance, faith, humility, submission and veneration, etc. According to Vivekananda, without faith, humility, submission and veneration in our hearts towards teachers, there cannot be any growth in us. The true teacher is he who can immediately come down to the level of his students and transfer his soul to the student's soul and see through and understand through his mind. Again, developing the child physically and mentally too was emphasized by Vivekananda as an aim of education. Physical and mental development of the child was stressed so that the child, after completing his or her education, can become able to promote national growth and advancement as fearless and physically well-developed citizens of tomorrow. Stressing the mental development of the child, Vivekananda wished education to enable the child to stand on his own legs economically rather than becoming a parasite on others. Moral and spiritual development. Vivekananda pleaded for the moral and spiritual development of the children. According to him, a nation's strength is measured not only by its parliamentary institutions and mere material well-being, but by the greatness of its citizens morally and spiritually. Education should foster such qualities in them. Such education will develop self-confidence among children. Self-confidence, according to Vivekananda, means confidence in humanity. A person having self-confidence sees his self everywhere and believes in world brotherhood and love of humanity. Vivekananda was also in favor of the technological and scientific progress. Renunciation of Swami Vivekananda does not mean total renunciation of the world. To live in this world and to struggle for existence, material and technological progress is very much necessary. So, Vivekananda stressed on Western science. In order to achieve the desired aims, Swami Vivekananda stressed on the subjects to be included in the curriculum which can bring about material progress along with spiritual development. For material progress, he educated the study of languages, geography, science, political science, economics, psychology, arts, agriculture and industrial and technical subjects, along with the subjects of physical education. This education must neither be theoretical nor bookish. It should rather be practical. For spiritual development, he educated the study of religion, philosophy, Puranas and Upanishads, and the company of saints and seers. Religion education should be imparted through sweet impressions and fine conduct of teachers rather than through books. Regarding the methods of teaching, he prescribed the same ancient methods of instruction which were in practice in Gurukulas. In that system, Guru and his disciple lived in close association like the members of a family. These methods included, number 1, practice of yoga for controlling mind and emotions. Number 2, deep meditation for the development of mind. Third one, it is self-learning. Guru will work as a guide only. Number 4, activities for developing creative potentials. Fifth one, lecture and discussion methods for elaborating essential facts. Then again, behavioral change through a fine model presented by the teacher. And at last, Vivekananda stressed that individual guidance should be given by the teacher to the students. Vivekananda emphasized child-centered education in which child is given full freedom for activity and self-learning. He should be given full opportunity to develop in a natural environment. According to him, each child is his own teacher. He has knowledge latent in his mind. The task of the external teacher is only to guide and inspire the child so that his inner knowledge is brought out. Students, I hope you might have enjoyed and understood this lecture. Thanks.